and welcome. This is Super Bowl weekend, and I'm your host, James Brown. You know, whether you're an avid fan, a casual spectator, or someone who loves watching the game for the commercials, the Super Bowl continues to be one of our most popular cultural events each and every year. And with kudos and gratitude to the donors, NFL players, and the amazing team at Sports Spectrum, you're now watching Football Sunday 2018.
This season, like every season I've been here, you just have your ups and your downs.
To be at a point after week 4, 2-2, some bad losses, it's like they're done. To be here now, I think it's just a credit to us sticking together.
It just goes to show you that it's a long journey. It took the guys and coaches to stick together in this locker room and tune out the noise on the outside and stick it to one another and playing for each other.
Scripture tells us that adversity is a good thing, that God uses that a certain way, and I think that adversity was used to kind of help make our football team come together more.
One of the qualities that I think makes it so special is guys care about other guys outside of the football game. And they carry you through, they get you through that stuff, and you're happy that you have those guys and they bring you through all the tough times.
We get together at different times where we talk about things to me that are more important than football. If you need help as being a father or a husband, advice and those things.
I mean, we had a huge group of guys in here that walk that walk, and it's hard to walk that life. But when you have great guys around you to hold you accountable, that helps you a lot.
I've been so encouraged this year by the body of believers that we have here. So many strong men that God has gifted in different ways. It's really been an honor to be a part of such a unique group this year.
It's an overwhelming sense of brotherhood and joyfulness and camaraderie, accountability. In the things of God, in the character of God, and how we should live and move and have our being.
I've grown a lot, since being here in my faith.
My faith could not have come at a better time. It's been so much more valuable than any of the wins that we've done. It's been the true treasure of coming here to New England.
So I really feel like he's given me this great opportunity to play a game that I love so much. He's given me people in my life, ability to go out here and do this, and then ultimately it gives me a platform to give him glory.
Without Christ, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you guys right now. All glory goes to him.
It's just authentic community. Guys are talking about their struggles. Guys are talking about the things that they're working through, the things that, are going well in their lives, the things that are, difficulties, whatever it might be.
The biggest thing about the guys in the locker room is that there's a bunch of unselfish players. It's a really, tight-knit group. It's really what a team should be.
These are guys that not only love me as a player, but encourage me more so off the field to stay true to the Word, to be in the Word, to consistently seek growth.
My relationship with God is the only reason why I'm playing football. Every time I'm out in the field, I'm not trying to bring my name glory. I'm trying to bring God's name glory because He's the one who's given me the opportunity and really paved the way for me to be here in this position I'm in now.
When I'm focused on Him, everything else can be scattered. Everything else can be hectic, and I'm at peace and I'm level. And I think ultimately that's the love and the grace, the beauty of Christ and having a true relationship with Him.
My relationship with Jesus is second to none. Last year was the first year that I truly dedicated my life to Christ. I got baptized in March, and with Jesus in my life, I know exactly who and why I'm playing this game.
This team really has become a brotherhood that has actually even gone into the coaches and the players. They truly are a family.
Carson went down. It was obviously tough for the team. A guy that was pretty much the rock of the team. And when he got hurt, everyone was extremely devastated.
We were obviously playing extremely well. We were on pace to go win the NFC East. We were just really clicking. Offensively, we've been playing really well throughout the game. I almost felt like I was playing as fast and as just carefree in a good way. I felt like I was in total control out there and potentially had to feel for the game that I probably hadn't had on that level yet. I just felt this probably as good as ever. and I scrambled around and dove in and didn't think much of it. And I started standing up and I realized, okay, my left leg, something's wrong. Every time I stepped, I could not put pressure on it. I could barely walk. And so I stayed in there for 4 more plays. 2 of them were runs, and I caught the ball, handed off. I usually carry out my fake and do everything, and that wasn't happening. And then he called a pass, and I'm like, okay, I got to get the ball out. I can't stand here very long. And threw it. It was incomplete. I just turned and put my head down and started walking off. I'm thinking 3rd down, and coach was like, no, go back out there. 4th down, we're going for it. I'm like, all right, here we go. As I'm like struggling just to walk back to the huddle, and I was just like, okay, well, I hope my first read's open. I'm like, something's gotta happen. Of course not. I just stood in there. Someone finally started breaking through the line, and I just kind of threw it in the direction of Alshon and Nelly, and it was all a gift from God that was completed for a touchdown. And usually I'm running in there to celebrate and have fun with my guys, and I just said, okay, cool. And I walked straight to the train. I'm like, we need to go in that tent. Something's wrong. And I just remember saying, Jesus, 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 like over and over, like, I need you, I need you. Trainers were looking at it, doing their tests, and I honestly wasn't even really paying attention to their tests. I was just laying back, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. He's the only one that could make it better, and he's the only one that could provide me peace. And at the same time, I'm like, your will, because I knew I needed him emotionally, physically, kind of everything in that moment. Woke up and from the surgery and felt okay, and then the next day came and I felt miserable. It was one of the worst days of my life because I couldn't even sleep. Like, there was just so much pain, and you never think you're gonna be that guy. And I'm just like, this is me now. I am that guy. This is reality for me, and how am I gonna come back from it? To know like all the pain I'm going through, and to think of what Jesus went through for me, it made me recognize a deeper level of love than I think I ever have really felt in a long time. It's always easy to say he's in control of everything, but the more I recognize like I need him in literally every moment of every situation when I can't even walk and do things, the more I realize like he's got everything in the palm of his hand.
You just have to know and be comfortable knowing that this is exactly where God has us. We know that he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't pace back and forth. He's seated on the throne, and he knows that this is exactly where we need to be.
Just this whole season, guys have stepped up, backups have stepped up, guys have prepared like they were going to be the starter, going into that game, even though they weren't, and they were just ready for their number to be called.
I think that's what's made this year so amazing, is how this entire team, players, coach, staff, secretaries, just coming together for this common cause of family.
Toward the end of C.S. Lewis's book, The Last Battle, one of the characters sums up what all the other characters are feeling. And my hunch is that you might be feeling it too. He stomped his right foot on the ground and then cried out, "I have come home at last. This is my real country. I belong here. This is the land I've been looking for all my life, though I never knew it until now." Life in the kingdom is that home we've all been looking for all of our days, whether we knew it or not. It's where we belong. It's our real country. And friends, whatever you do today, whoever you're with, wherever you go, I pray that you laugh and play and cheer and pretend that you're a kid again playing on an elementary school football field. The honor has truly been mine to spend this time together with you. It's Super Bowl 52. God bless you, and by all means, enjoy the game.
So there are 3 key words that were to be the theme for this year's Super Bowl Sunday or Football Sunday. The first word is seek, and then there is serve, and then surrender. So here's a piece about what seek means.
For a person to seek God, I think it's a person to seek truth.
And, I think our hearts always long to seek something, to seek satisfaction, to seek gratification, to seek peace.
It's something that you have to do. You have to actually be in pursuit.
We're called to not only just sit down and expect God to come to us, but we're called to chase after him and seek after him.
Seek ye first the kingdom and all his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. I mean, it doesn't get any more blatant or plain than that it's important for us to get our priorities straight.
Coolest thing about it, man, is like when you intentionally seek something, it's for a purpose or a specific reason. And I think, in our hearts, we're all longing for something. We're all longing for that peace and that joy and that satisfaction.
So usually when I'm not seeking God, I'm actually not reaching far enough. I'm not even reaching my potential.
My whole growing up, I wanted to be a Christian. I wanted to know about God, but I also wanted to live another life. So I had my foot on both sides of the line. And so it wasn't until I hit rock bottom until I truly started seeking God.
We put our heart into all these other things, all these worldly things. And we have to turn them from those things just to look at God, because he's counter to all those things. Seeking his kingdom is counter to seeking the world.
And for me to seek God now, I just look back on these times of my life where I'm smack in the middle of uncertainty, where something happens, and I feel like that's my most peaceful times, because you're literally walking blind. You don't know what's next. Because of that uncertainty, it puts you in a place of seeking and understanding what real faith is about.
Regardless of situation, that's kind of what Paul is talking about, whether I have, a little or I have a lot. I can do all things through Christ, and that's really what that means, and no matter the situation, we have to be seeking his face.
Whether I'm trying to help somebody or change something, I'm like, I can't do it on my own. And that's when you kind of realize, okay, I've been put here to get this accomplished, but I can't do it on my own accord. And I continuously, seek guidance, seek wisdom, and I don't know how I'm going to get this done, but God, I need that direction.
You have to make time and be intentional about living that life for Christ and seeking him in the most fundamental and most basic ways.
Seeking God. What do you think about seeking God? How does that play out for you? As I try to invite the children to consider, God is so much closer. God is really close. Scripture says God is closer than our own breath. But so often we are in such a hurry to hear, to discern. They said you seek for a purpose. There is nobody who seeks just to seek. There is always some purpose. This Lent, we are going to slow things way down. We're going to have prayer times, prayer stations. I'm going to speak a lot less this Lent so that you have time to listen to God's presence that is inside and present in you. Because that's how God guides us. Seek God.
The word surrender to me is always one that I struggle with, because to me it deals with responsibility. Where usually you think of it as a place of weakness, for me it's freeing because the responsibility is no longer on me, it's on God.
It's more of a sign of entrusting, I would say, at least in terms of what you're giving to the Lord.
I think that's a word that has a lot of layers to it. You know, and so you talk about surrender. I mean, you know, it's different in the game because I'm out there yelling to my team, never surrender, never retreat. But when it comes to God, it's totally different.
The notion when we hear surrender, it takes such a negative tone because we feel like it means give up, it means quit. When you surrender, you're giving up to things that are gonna suffocate you anyway. And he's calling you into a life that in some respects may be different than what you believe is gonna satisfy you, but is ultimately gonna bring you peace.
There's many times where it's difficult to surrender to God. I think one of the main ones is probably when trials and tribulations hit, because we're trying to control it so much ourselves.
I think everybody's default would go back to some form of selfishness.
And for me, it just came to a point where I just got tired. I got tired of living that life. I got tired of living a double life.
And it's hard to sometimes separate those types of things because we're so flesh and worldly, and a lot of me, 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 and really none of you, and serving and surrendering.
I've always wanted to know I'm going to be on this team for this amount of time and, you know, really have my future set. So that was selfishly just wanting to know everything was going to be okay, you know. And I think for me, the course of my career being the way it has been, it's continued to put me in a space of faith all the time.
You know, it's a fight. You know, it's a fight with the devil, it's a fight with the enemy.
It seems so backwards. Why do I give all these things up that make me feel good, right? That seems backwards, but there is such a greater joy. There's such a greater happiness and fulfillment in Jesus Christ.
God's saying, hey, listen, you can give up and completely let go of whatever it is because I'm worth it. In turn, you're going to be getting something by giving up a little. You're going to be getting something so much greater.
I've heard all the sayings, you know, don't tell God how big your problem is, tell your problem how big your God is. But when you're in the midst of it, for real, you know, all those cliche sayings kind of just go out the window, and you're sitting there like, no, I can handle it. And you want to just, you know, do it yourself so bad, but you really gain power through him when you surrender and let him take care of it.
God wants everything. He wants your entire life. He wants it all because he knows how to use it the best.
All the pressures of worldly expectations and standard are gone. All those things that used to weigh me down, I think it's not mine anymore. I don't have to worry about it because I've surrendered.
You surrender the things that, you know, you want to hold on to and say, I did this, you know, I got it to the NFL. When you finally surrender those strongholds, you are free and you're at peace. And there's no peace like the covering of Jesus Christ.
So in 2007, I learned an important lesson about surrender. I was blessed to go to the Holy Land. And so we were in Israel for 14 days. 7 days in Galilee, the north part, 7 days in Judea, the southern part. And one of those 7 days, we went to the Dead Sea. And we were told before we ever entered the Dead Sea that it is not possible to drown in the Dead Sea. You just can't drown in it. There's so much salt in it that you can't drown in it. So just surrender to it, just relax, you'll be fine. Well, that's pretty easy said than done. So we went into the Dead Sea, and a bunch of us began to struggle. I mean, really began to struggle and thrashing about. And I don't know if you've ever had salt in your eyes, but what is in the Dead Sea when it gets into your eye? Oh, I can feel it talking to you about it. It stung so much that I could not even focus on struggling anymore. And then all of a sudden I was sitting on the Dead Sea, which is what we were told to do in the first place. Just sit there, you will not drown. That's the story that comes to mind as I watch this piece of Surrender. Boy, we are engaged in such a struggle on so many different fronts. I look at all of you, and some of you have given me the privilege of inviting me into your life. So I know some of the struggles that are going on for some of you. And I know it's not easy. But here is a question. Which future would you rather have? The one you have in mind for you, or the one that God has in mind for you? Which future would you rather have? The one that you have created for yourself out of your great ideals and dreams and visions, that's great. Mind for you, no matter what. Question of surrender Jesus had to face in the Garden of Gethsemane. That's what that picture is about. That struggle to come to that place that says, thy will be done, not mine. Even Jesus had to make that journey. That's something all of us face.
One of our main purposes is to serve others. It's one of the ways we shed the gospel, not only through speaking it, but being able to show that Christ-like manner.
There's so many different ways to serve. Just meeting other people's needs. Find out what you feel like God is calling you to do and what you like to do and what cause you want to help.
If we're not focused on serving those around us, we start to look back at ourselves. And once we get our minds on ourselves, we're not on mission, we're not on assignment.
You know, there are people in this nation that are suffering. And there are people in this world that are suffering. And how can I serve those? And in doing all those things, you're able to show the love of Christ.
If Christ set the example and we are seeking him daily, shouldn't we live out the way he was exemplified?
When you read Mark 10:45, there's an exchange that's happening there that's saying, whatever it takes for you to have peace and have a connection with God, I'll do that. And if we're going to be a ransom to people and we're going to serve people, that means whatever it takes for you to know peace and to know God, then I'll do that.
When the Lord is supplying my needs and leading me and I'm close and seeking him, then the reality of it is I can now offer that to other people around me.
For me, what keeps me in a service mindset is not feeling like I'll be punished if I don't do it. It's more so just feeling like, well, what impact am I missing if I don't do this?
I can always say, God, when I have a little bit more, then I'll give more. When I have a little bit more time, when I'm not as busy, I'll serve more. I'll spend more time doing things that are uplifting to your kingdom. But God is like, you know what? I always need people to pray. I always need people that'll give, and I always need people that'll go.
Well, I like to give a lot of wisdom to the young people, the young and upcoming generation, because they're so easily influenced right now by many different things that this can impact their lives going forward.
I've actually been to Honduras to actually see some of the work where people didn't have access to clean water and what it's done for those communities.
I've had somebody reach out to me to help me out at every key point in my life, whether it was watching my dad grow up and seeing how he really served the community. I get to high school and had a coach that poured into me get to Ohio State and play under Coach Jim Tressel, who taught me all about faith, integrity. So I know the importance of all of those small opportunities.
That's the heart of serving, is just desiring so much that you would be willing to give up of yourself, of your resources, because you believe in so much in what you've surrendered to, that serving, becomes a posture of life, and it becomes a way that you live.
So I might suggest to us that service is a path to surrender. Service is a path to surrender. In other words, surrendering is not just a decision that is made one time and it's done. But it's worked through step by step as we serve. And as we serve, we find stuff out about ourselves. We find things that, no, I don't want to do that, or I would rather not do that, or that person I don't want to talk to, or no, I can't. And little by little, and it's working through that one at a time, is when we finally surrender and grow in surrender. That's why service is so important. That's why simply paying people to do things will not advance us in discipleship, because we're not moving in that surrender journey when we don't serve. And so Jesus said, the Son of Man did not come simply to be served, but to serve. Because it's in that service that we grow in surrender and in yielding to God. That's why. So where are you serving? Are you looking for a place to plug in and to serve? So plenty of places to be serving right here in our church. Right here. So much help is needed. Love God, know Christ, that's service. Care for one another, joyfully share the good news.